Hands down, what people love about Visual Studio is the code editing and debugging experience. It is the best part about Visual Studio. There is no other IDE out there that comes even close.
Hi, this is Richard Campbell from .NET Rocks and Run As Radio. I'm here in One Estera down in Redmond, Washington, having a chance to talk a little bit about Visual Studio. And with me is Anthony. What do you do for the company?
I'm the group product manager for Visual Studio Core. It's basically, if everybody's using it in Visual Studio, it probably falls into the core team. We're talking Git tools, editor, project system.
I appreciate that. Core is a bit of a loaded word coming from .NET as well, but so the main parts of Studio, because there's so much to Studio. It's a complex product.
It is the best-in-class product for .NET and C++ development, hands down. I love it. We live it, we breathe it, and if you're using one of those features that just kind of are at the center of the product, it's probably a part of our core team. We really obsess over how we make that just, the perfect, most efficient IDE that you use all day long. In Visual Studio, about 2 out of 5 developers are still using versions before VS 2022. And when you think about that, how much they're missing out on the continuous innovations, one of VS's biggest features is just how much value it's continually bringing developers. And I hope that if we teach anybody anything today, it's just a little bit of why they should think about looking at the latest version of VS.
Sure. I also know you maintain continuity across that I can take my project from an earlier version, pull it out in 22, and expect it to work.
Compatibility is critical. So you can immediately bring your project into the latest version, see it running there. But not only is compatibility critical, but also side by side. So you're not taking a big plunge to say, hey, let me go and try and do this upgrade, and how is that going to work? Is it going to be compatible or not? We allow you to install the latest version side by side with your old version, so you can test it and make sure that you believe that it's working and doing what you need.
Yeah, no surprises.
No.
Because most of the developers that I talk to on the show, they have a huge number of projects they're skipping between. They don't get to work on one thing every day. They have to be able to move from one space to another, and not all the rules are the same for each project. I mean, I think it's very challenging for your average enterprise dev just rolling between these projects and keeping track of all those different things. I don't think we think of Studio as a project manager, but it's a big piece of what it does.
Oh, it's a big piece of it. You were telling me just before that you were working with an IT admin who has 150 applications in his portfolio. Mm-hmm. He has to think about how all of those projects can build and run in Visual Studio. So you really have to make sure that you can test it and make sure it works for you.
Yeah, no, I know what's going on. I think there's this fear that upgrades are going to break things. I don't know that it's completely unfounded, but it does seem like that sort of stuff's gotten way better in the recent past.
No doubt. And not only has it gotten better, but we also want to make sure that you can move through that safely. We are constantly shipping every month a preview version of our latest tools so that we can test it with customers. Customers can give us feedback, we can find any issues that are there. About every 3 months, we ship an update of each version of Visual Studio out to the general public that's already been tested both internally and externally. We've addressed the feedback that's come in through previews so that what you get is the highest quality version of the product that we can deliver. But on top of that, if by the chance that there is something that just happens to get by, we've also added the ability to roll back versions. So even if you've done an update, a dot release update, and that isn't working for you, you can roll back one dot release to an earlier version and keep doing what you were doing before.
So no one-way trips.
Nope.
We always have a path back.
Yeah.
Well, I've been using Visual Studio since the very first version in '97, and obviously it's evolved, but I'm an unabashed fan of the IDE. I like having everything in one place and having all the pieces there ready to go for me.
You'll sometimes hear folks say, well, having all that in one place means that it's a large application, it's slow. 2022 now is 64-bit, which means that we have all of the memory space for the largest applications that you want to run. Take the Chromium solution, for example, 11,000 projects. You can load that in Visual Studio. On top of that, it isn't just being able to load the largest solutions, but how do you do that in an efficient way? So take Chromium again, right? Like it's upwards of like 4+ minutes to load that solution in Visual Studio when we started.
It's 11,000 projects. Like that's just a lot.
That is a lot there, but that doesn't matter, right? Like developers don't care about how many projects, they need to get to their code.
They get to work, yeah.
And get to work. And so how do we address that? So one of the things that we're doing is we're enabling the ability to pre-generate all the caches that you need so that Visual Studio, when it loads, already understands that 11,000 projects.
Right.
So you're not spending 4 minutes Visual Studio analyzing it, getting context, understanding the code, pre-compiling it, et cetera. No, that's already been done for you. So now that 4 minutes goes down to about 30 seconds. And so that is about an 80% gain. Now, realistically, a lot of times you'll use a filter to get down to a more focused subset of that 11,000 projects. But even
There's no chance you need all 11,000. The trick is, can I get to the pieces I need?
you need, and even that is still faster and has significant gains when you put these pre-caches on top of your dev box. And well, why does it matter, right? Like, okay, I'm building a new machine. Why do I want to put those caches on there at the beginning? I'll just wait that 4 minutes the first time and it's done. But there are a lot of companies that are looking at how do they use virtualized development environments as the space where they do their coding. Services like Microsoft DevBox let you create a DevBox on demand in a few minutes. Now you have an entire environment that you can get started on that's ready to code. You don't have to wait any time. You get right into the context you're looking for.
So not just preloaded in the right configuration so I don't have any of those problems, but then already optimized so the opening time is quick, I can get right to work.
Get right to work.
No waiting.
Yep, no waiting, all the context that you need is there. And you have a fast ID that not just from the first load at solution load is fast, but we're really looking at every point in the developer workflow to think about where are those stop points that we need to really optimize. So you take the code editing experience. We are constantly looking at typing speed and typing speed performance and how do we make that as responsive on a local machine and even in remote environments now. You take a look at the F5 time. We've significantly reduced the time to a debug session. Build time is critical. SDK style projects now have incremental builds that only build the change project, saving you upwards of, I think, 80% performance. Each one of those steps is a place where we're looking at how we can squeeze out every bit of performance because you need to be able to get into that flow and stay in that flow. That productivity we talked about is critical.
Well, and I realize, like, as I'm typing code, you're effectively compiling because you give me the squiggly lines when I misspell things. Like, you're giving me a lot of information, but you're actually carrying that all the way to the actual compile experience so that when I do hit the F5, you've already done a lot of the work.
Yep, all of that's done in the background, and that's where those caches come in. Pre-generating that ahead of time lets you get right into having that context there, and then we just incrementally update it as we're going. But from a developer's point of view, you don't have to think about that.
This
right?
is your job.
Yeah, this is our job on how we build it. You as a dev, you just focus on your coding. We focus on taking every ounce of delay and pause out of the product so that you can just focus on getting what you've done. Because you need to get what's in your head onto those files as quickly as possible.
Is the big thing for 64-bit that big memory space? So now I have a lot more there. Are there other benefits for going 64-bit?
Yeah, there's the huge solution that we can load. We can use more memory space. You're not constrained to a single process of 2 gigabytes of memory. So as you're loading more context, you can understand more of the code that's there without being limited on larger projects.
You talk about this term inner loop a fair bit when I read your stuff. You know, you're a regular blogger. What do you mean when you say inner loop?
When we talk about the inner loop in Microsoft, we're really talking about that kind of hands on the keyboard code editing experience. While you're there, you've got that work item that's been assigned to you. You want to get into that point of focus and flow. You really want to start actually building your project, building your code. You want to start testing it, iterating on it, debugging it, all the way through committing all your PRs up until the point that you merge it back into your main branch. That's your inner loop end to end.
Do you measure that time? Like, how would you keep track of that? How do you improve on that?
I mean, we want to have you in that time as much as you can. I mean, that's your point of flow. Developers spend maybe about 50 or 60% of their time coding and the rest of it in meetings and other collaborative stuff. They want to increase that time as much as possible. Well, when you get so little of that time that you can really focus on the core value creating, we want to make that as productive as we can. And so that's where a lot of what we put our energy into is listening to what feedback we're getting from customers. What are the pain points that they're hearing? And then how can we bring those features into the product to make that 50 or 60% time as useful as it can be.
Right. The speed to get into the flow, to have all the right pieces in front of you. Like when I think about what I love about an IDE, it's that all the parts are there right away. So it doesn't take me long to pick up all the threads I need to lift to get into a state of, oh, I know what to work on next.
All your context is there. I mean, you start from, the branch you created for that feature topic branch. That's there. Your Git is integrated into your tooling experience. Within the editor, you can see all of the context of your code. You can see the changes you're making. You can see your tests running, the results from your test. You have your test cases there side by side so that you really are bringing all of and shifting as much of the quality left, finding issues right there while you're coding before they ever make it out into review or production.
Right, yeah, and before you've even built it, you're already picking it up. And then, I mean, you can't ignore that editor, debugger, edit and continue effect.
Best part about Visual Studio, hands down, what people love about Visual Studio is the code editing and debugging experience.
Right.
There is no other IDE out there that comes even close.
And I'm always fascinated when I can show someone I'm working on live code that's never worked in that space before. And it's like, is that code actually running? It's like, yeah, it's running right now. In fact, here's the change, and you can see it appear, and we can continue on.
Hot reload. It's there. It's there for .NET. It's there for C++. And just as you're writing code, just imagine, right, like all the value that used to only be there for the web is now there for the apps that you're building on any platform. And you can see those changes. You're building your mobile app. You change the color. You change the layout. You make that, and you publish, or not even publish it, but you just
continue
at your execution.
The emulator changes in front of you, and you're like, oh, that's the big thing I find is that not context switching. That I'm in a space that does all the things, that does all the parts that are important to me, and I can continue on and like deliver on a piece of work, and then now you can go get a coffee.
But why does that matter, right? Like, think about it. It's not just like, hey, I wanted to move a button around, but how does that button work in the context of how I was using it, right? Like, you have to get the app to a point. You have to move through several screens. You might want to put some text into it or some data that you're validating. That takes time. The ability to make the function change behind the scenes and then have that available, you don't have to go and waste all that time resetting up all that context through another F5 debug loop. You do it right away.
Also, then when I'm thinking about the enterprise space especially, you have a lot of coding standards and things that the organization expects of the way work's going to be. And I find catching those in the review process are a lot more tedious than if I could catch them earlier while I'm writing the code. I've always been fascinated with the ability to sort of have those reminders as you're going, that's not the style we asked for.
Yeah, you've got code analyzers inside of your editor that help you find those issues early, all those quality issues, style issues. You've got editor config that's integrated into Visual Studio that your entire team can define the standards for how they want code written so that you don't have to go and get that little bit of feedback of we use tabs versus spaces in the code review. Your code editor is telling you about that right up front.
Yeah, so you've already done it. It's likely compliant with the standards before you even checked it in.
Oh yeah, and you'll know about it. It's in your error list, it's in your warning, so that you can go through that task list and make sure it's perfect before you submit the code review. You want to look your best, right?
Yeah, sure. And also you want to keep that time under control. Like, those are the worst kinds of code reviews when we're really just going over that. Just, hey, this code works great. It just doesn't comply with standards. So can you please, go back and rework it? If that part's already done and now we're just focused on functionality, that's a better use of time.
Yeah. And how do you see all of those changes? One of the big places we've put a lot of energy over the course of the last year is in our Git tooling. I come back to those folks that, in 2022, we've completely rewritten our Git experience. Soup to nuts, top down, pound for pound, I would say it is the best Git experience out there that you can get inside of an IDE.
Well, seeing issues in the IDE and saying, oh, that's the thing I'm going to work on, and off I go.
You can assign your issues. You can create pull requests now right within the IDE. You get all of the comparisons and diffing experiences. And I want to talk for a minute about kind of how do we plan, like where do we focus? And so one of the things that we do is we look for kind of where is there a vein of feedback, a common theme of areas where we can make the product better. One of those places that we've really been focusing over the last 6 months is getting ready for your pull requests. So if you look back at kind of all the work that we've been doing since the beginning of 2022, you'll see this ongoing cadence of work that we've done where we've introduced multi-branch support. We've introduced comparing branches. We've introduced comparing files. You can see now a summary diff view inside of the editor. Inside of the editing space, we show you little glyphs showing you your changes so you can identify where those changes are. All of this is to help you understand the changes you're making as you're doing them to get ready for that PR. Now in this last release, we just introduced the Create PR experience. It's really kind of capping off that end to end. And over the next few weeks and few months, we have some even more exciting things coming there.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a really powerful point, which is often I'm in a branch for days, if not a couple of weeks. You almost forget everything you've done in that time. Then you go to have to write that PR request. And can you actually summarize all the efforts you've gone into over that time well enough to communicate it effectively? Like anything the tool can help me with on that, I'd appreciate. Because typically by the time I'm pushing the PR, I'm pretty tired of this at this point. It's like, I'm really glad to be putting this away. And
Take a ton of changes,
Yeah.
take all that code editing changes, and so you need to be able to go back and understand the context of what might be a dozen different commits. How do you get the context of, well, what did you change across dozens of files? Summary diff, branch compare, let you see all of that in one place. You can review and understand, this is what I've changed. You write that PR description that folks can go and understand what they're looking for and how they're analyzing your code changes.
Yeah, and it helps to really capture the whys of everything we're building in software, not just the result, which is the code.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is for me to be able to come back as a different developer and look at that, which, totally normal in our work these days. It's like, I've got to read these PRs and figure out why we did this. The more information I have there, the less time I'm going to spend trying to pick it back up and be able to do some new work on it.
It's not only being able to see the differences, but even being able to run it and test it. And so when you take your PR and you push it out to a remote host, and then you have a service like Azure Deployment Environments that takes that and deploys it into a sandbox environment, now your entire team who's reviewing your code review isn't limited to just the diff that they see inside of GitHub or Azure DevOps. They can actually see the running application, test it out, and really know that that code is doing what it's supposed to do.
And actually see it effectively what it would look like in the field without affecting the field.
Yep, exactly. And devs can push all that up without having to have access to an individual subscription. IT can manage access. All of that is being handled behind the scenes for them. So you know that they're working in a safe, kind of really correctly configured environment.
Right, and so if it runs there, it will run in production. No
Exactly.
surprises there.
Exactly. It's based off the same templates that are deploying to production are deploying to these sandbox environments.
Well, Anthony, really fun to talk to you. It's exciting to talk to folks who are building the product about the thing I spend so much time in. I think many others do as well. Thanks for spending time with me.
Thanks a lot, Richard. It's been great.
I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. There's going to be many more like it. We're talking all about Visual Studio and the ongoing evolution that's going there. And I'm Richard Campbell, excited to be here in One Astera. See you next time.